Imagine if Lord of the Rings and Star Wars had a baby, but that baby was dropped on its head repeatedly and then raised by someone who thought, wait, I know what we need. More dragon movies. That's Eragon. It's like someone took a fantasy novel, threw it into a blender, and then poured the resulting sludge into a script. It's almost like a child wrote it or something. Oh, wait. Let's dive into this dumpster fire, shall we? Act 1. The farm boy who was definitely not Luke Skywalker. Our story begins in a place so generic it might as well be called Medieval Village Number 7. Enter Eragon, a farm boy with the personality of a wet sock. He's out hunting one day, because that's what farm boys do, apparently, when he stumbles upon a glowing blue rock. Now, most people would see a glowing rock and think, maybe I should leave this alone because it's probably cursed or radioactive. But not Eragon. No, this kid picks it up like it's a free sample at Costco. Turns out the rock is actually a dragon egg, because of course it is. This isn't just any dragon egg, though. It's a magic dragon egg. Because in this world, dragons are basically the iPhones of mythical creatures, sleek, shiny, and way too expensive for the average peasant to afford. The egg hatches and out pops Saphira, a dragon who looks like she was designed by ChatGPT. She's blue, she's scaly, and she can talk. Because why not? Now, Eragon's life is officially ruined. He's no longer just a farm boy. He's a farm boy with a pet lizard that he can ride. You know what I mean? Not like that. No, man. Get your mind out of the gutter. Anyway, it's basically like being a Jedi, but with worse job security. Enter Brom, the local town drunk, who also happens to be a retired dragon rider. He's like Obi-Wan Kenobi, but with less charm and more leather. Brom takes one look at Eragon and Saphira and goes, oh, great, another Neo wannabe. Act 2, the generic quest that nobody asked for. So Eragon, Saphira, and Brom set off on a quest to do something. Honestly, the plot is about as clear as mud at this point. There's an evil king named Galbatorix, because all evil kings need names that sound like they were generated by a fantasy name generator. He's bad because reasons? I think he killed all the other dragons or something. Honestly, it's hard to care. Along the way, they pick up a love interest named something or the other. She's an elf, which means she's basically a walking tree with a bow and arrow. She's also been captured by the bad guys because of course she has. Because what's a fantasy movie without a damsel in distress who's also inexplicably a badass? Arya doesn't do much except look ethereal and occasionally remind everyone that she's better than them. So, pretty much a standard teenager. Oh, and there's also a guy named Murtagh. He's the Han Solo of the group, except without the charisma or the cool jacket, or the spaceship, or the Wookiee, or anything for that matter. He's basically just there to brood and occasionally swing a sword. Act 3. The dragon grows up way too fast. So, Saphira the dragon grows up at the speed of light. One minute she's a cute little lizard, and the next she's a full-grown, fire-breathing death machine. It's like she's on some kind of dragon growth hormone. Eragon, meanwhile, is still struggling to figure out how to ride her without falling off. Again, not like that. Jeesh, people. There's a lot of training montages because every hero's journey needs at least one montage. Brom teaches Eragon how to use a sword, how to ride a dragon, and how to deliver cheesy one-liners. It's all very inspiring, if by inspiring you mean painfully cliché. Act 4. The not-so-big battle. Eventually, the gang ends up at the rebel base, which is basically just a bunch of tents in the woods. The rebels are led by a guy who looks like he'd rather be anywhere else. They're planning to fight Galbatorix's army, which consists of a bunch of faceless soldiers who exist solely to die in slow motion. The big battle happens, and it's about as exciting as watching paint dry. Saphira breathes fire, Eragon swings his sword, and Arya shoots arrows. Meanwhile, Murtagh broods in the background. Galbatorix's army is defeated, but not before Brom sacrifices himself in the most predictable way possible. Because apparently no mentor figure is allowed to survive a fantasy movie. Act 5. The ending that sets up a sequel that never happened. The movie ends with Eragon and Saphira flying off into the sunset, ready to fight another day. Arya and Murtagh are still there, because I guess the writers forgot to give them anything meaningful to do. The rebels cheer, the bad guys retreat, and everyone pretends like this was a satisfying conclusion. But wait, there's a post-credits scene where Galbatorix reveals that he's not really dead. Because of course he's not. Because this movie was clearly setting up a sequel that no one wanted, and thankfully never got. Eragon is the kind of movie that makes you question your life choices. It's a mishmash of every fantasy trope you can think of, thrown together with all the grace of a drunk giraffe. The dialogue is cringe, the plot is predictable, and the characters are about as deep as a puddle. But hey, at least the dragon looks cool, sort of. In conclusion, Eragon is the cinematic equivalent of a participation trophy. It exists, but it's not winning any awards. And if you've made it this far, congratulations. You've just wasted more time thinking about this movie than the writers did writing it. You're welcome.